Before we get
data, and we
started,
have a model
banks
that
and other
evaluate
financial
the work
institutions
that
are
this
required
data,
by regulators
the
to
other
test
model is
fraud
generating.
AML
So we
systems.
really
It's not
built our
optional,
own
it's the law.
validator and
Independent testing
generator
is a
slash
foundational
miner.
pillar of
So
any
we found
robust
out it's
AML
fit
program,
perfectly. And
ensuring
we,
these
because we
defenses
just
truly
started
work. Despite
2023,
spending billions of
we
dollars
have
each
as a
year on
small
financial crime
company,
prevention,
we are
the
very
industry
small.
has
We don't
still
have an
faced
R&D
321
team.
billion in fines
And
over the
I
last
found out
15
actually
years
that's
for
my way
deficient
to go to
AML
get my
programs.
R&D team.
Traditional manual
And that's why I
testing is
say
slow,
miners are,
costly,
I look
and
to
prone
them
to
as a
human
team
error,
members.
leaving
They
critical
are
gaps.
my R&D
That's why
team.
Yacht's
And how
AI-powered
I
Subnet
can work with
54 is
them.
a
And
game changer.
evaluator is
By
the people
automating
that I
complex
was
AML
actually
testing,
working
it
on.
delivers
So it
faster,
fit
more accurate
perfectly.
results
And I
and
said,
scales
let's
effortlessly
go. I
across
will
global
say it
operations.
is
Subnet
it's a
54 is
tough
uniquely
journey
positioned to
to
disrupt
figure
the
out
industry,
a lot of
already
the
securing
details about
sticky
how it
multi-year
make it works and
contracts
all of
with
this. But
leading
I think
financial
so far
organizations
it
worldwide.
was
Learn how
very
Yachts is
interesting
redefining
because I
AML
woke up every
testing and
day, have something
protecting
new to do
institutions from
and
costs and
something
penalties.
new to look
The link
to.
will be in the
And
description
it's a
below.
very nice
All right,
ecosystem. So we're
let's get
enjoying
into it.
ourselves here. A little bit suspicious what we're bringing and what they're doing. But the thing is, but it took me less than a couple of hours to say, no, this is actually not no suspicious at all, because I already worked on the blockchain before. In one of the startup I was working, we were trying to do sovereign identity, and we're trying to build using decentralized blockchain to build sovereign identity. And we really have a couple of papers on that. So I'm familiar with that. But the concept of how you the incentive that you give to the miners and the token and all of that make me, how this is work and how does it work? That's make me a little bit, for a couple of hours only. But once talked to Jose, we found out exactly something we are doing in our, and maybe we'll come to this soon, in our company to test sanction screening systems and how we build it, where we have our own machine learning models, and we have a model that generate the data, and we have a model that evaluate the work that this data, the other model is generating. So we really build our own validator and generator slash miner. So we found out it's fit perfectly, and because we just started 2023, we have, as a small company, we are very small. We don't have an R&D team, and I found out actually that's my way to go to get my R&D team. And that's why I say miners are, I look to them as a team members. They are my R&D team, and how I can work with them. And evaluator is the people that I was actually working on. So it fit perfectly, and I say, let's go. I will say it's a tough journey to figure out a lot of the details about how it works and all of this. But I think so far it was very interesting, because I woke up every day, have something new to do and something new to look to. And it's a very nice ecosystem. So we're enjoying ourselves here.
And before we get into too much of the nitty gritty of how the subnet works with the miners and validators, what would you say is the high level thesis or goal of the subnet? Why did you create Yanez, the subnet?
I think, I mean, the the, the basic idea was that in order to test financial prevention systems, you need to know very well the identities that are behind it. You need to understand how these identities operate in there. And that was, in fact, that was the basis of my previous company, of how to use identities to correlate the information that you were getting such that you could do a better detection. The principle was, the more you know about identity, the easier it is to spot whether there is a fraudulent activity or there is financial crime happening. That was the thesis of my previous company. So when we started with the concept of testing, we're testing from the same basis. We're testing from the basis of identities and how these identities then play a role into all of this. So when you go in and try to define what this subnet is about, is, okay, let's create, and we already had the concept that there is an intellectual property where we filed patents on, about how then to create this identity synthetically and how to use this identity synthetically to test systems and so on. So the basic then was to say, how do we create all this data? How do we leverage, a whole network of scientists across the world that can give us this edge, can give us the ability to create data faster so that we can get to use cases and the many, many use cases that we're thinking about in a much faster way. In fact, we already know that from the time that we start the design and get the miners working, that cycle seems to be much shorter than if we were to do it ourselves with our own research, given the constraints of our company, obviously, which are very small. So I think we again, the basis of how you create a synthetic identity with all of those dimensions that we needed to, that's what we wanted to create in Bittensor, and that's what we're headed to.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that about what we think that brought us to Bittensor. Jose talked about faster, but also about the scale, because I think with these miners working 24/7 and they have really excellent job, I think we can quickly, whatever the customer need, we can scale quickly. Again, we cannot do that as a small team. Recency, I mean that these miners always bringing new models, which is something that they always get updated. But add to that diversity. Each miner bring his own pipeline, his own model, which is a crucial part for our testing or synthetic identity we're generating for testing. And diversity and generating unbiased data is important, because if we build it by ourselves, I don't think we can bring so much color, so much diversity by the technology and the models and the ideas as if you have like 200 or more miners working on that. And building identity need this diversity, because we cannot, one of the main issue that we see when test system, they are biased. Either they are biased because of how they train, they bias about maybe how they've been tested. So our job as AN is to bring as much diverse data and cover the dimensions of the different attributes of the identity. And we believe decentralization of this problem and bringing to the Bittensor was actually really an innovation and a very unique to our customers, because now our customers are actually coming to us because we have this kind of, as I said, scale, recency, and diversity.
In terms of the subnet mechanics here, for validators, miners, and the subnet owner, what would you say, or what is the role of the miner? What do they do specifically?
I can go in that one and start with this one. So I will just go with the bigger picture and then discuss about what's happening today. The bigger picture that we are now to create synthetic identity. And if you think about the identity of a person, there is multiple dimensions to describe someone.